There we go.
All righty. Is it live?
Yeah,
you are live, it says. All right. We are back. This is episode 6 of This Week in MeteorJS. And this week we're asking, what are people asking us in the comments and in the submission box? We've got some responses this week, so that was really cool. We'll take a look again at this concept called deep dives that we talked about last week, brought up. We've got some open questions regarding that, some confusion, it seems. So we're going to get to that. And we are also discussing bringing back a good old project that needs to see the light of day. I'm talking about Awesome Meteor, and we will have one of the Jans address that this week as we go through. And what is this about Helene? Is she here to stay? Is she a member of the Meteor team? Or is she something else? Finally, we'll get down to talking about Hacktoberfest. We are now deep in the process of getting into Hacktoberfest. And I think our friend Jan Küster has a few things to say about that. We'll talk about these things and more on This Week in MeteorJS, episode 6. Make sure to follow along through the episode segments so you don't miss anything. All right, so as I said before, this is This Week in MeteorJS, a weekly news segment of the MeteorJS Dispatches podcast. Your hosts today, are Jan Küster and Jan Dvorak, also known as Storyteller CZ. So welcome, guys. It's good to see you back again. We were here last week. I was mostly silent last week, but this week I am speaking again, and it's terrific. So why don't we just head straight to the feedback that we've gotten recently, and let's talk about that a little bit. In the comments section last week, hang on a second. I am reading from some old notes here, so let me flip through real quick and get back to where I'm supposed to be. But in the not the comments section, but in the chats last week, there was an open question. I'm going to turn this over to Storyteller because he's been looking into this issue, and he has something to share.
Yes, so Alan, please share my screen. So the question was in regards to packages about using the API versions from, especially if we can pretty much do, as you can see here with the alphas. Normally we define, our Meteor release, and usually it works from there. But with alphas, the question was if we can, instead of doing alpha.15 or then having to up it every time, we can do like say alpha.x. And sadly, that is not possible, as you can going to see, is because it's an unknown release, because the tool does not recognizes that kind of release, so it doesn't know. And since it's alpha, it's the release candidates, it's kind of a little bit outside of the semantic versioning. It doesn't know what to process it. So every time, with alphas like these, you will have to go back and define specifically which one you are targeting. And it's sad in a way, but at the same time, it makes sense that you just cannot, make it like that, because usually these releases are highly volatile and things can change very quickly. So it's fine if you're doing normal, versions, because then it takes that as the minimum version from which it will go up, unless there's like a major version bump, in which case then you will have to, define another version here like that. So that's that, and we can go next.
All right. So, excuse me. That wasn't so much feedback as follow-up to an earlier discussion last week. So what we're covering right now is the feedback that we've gotten through the submission form and the comments. And from the submission form this week or last week, We had a submission from Jared Lowson. And Jared asks about data fetching in Meteor 3.0. He says, will the best practice continue to be using pub/sub sparingly? That is to say, only for things really needing reactivity. Related, he's also wondering if there's any news with Meteor integrating MongoDB change streams. And I'll just touch on that last item first. In episode 3, we did talk a bit about change streams. So if you want to go back and find out a little more about what was discussed then, I would suggest going back there and taking a look. I think the short answer to that is yes, it is looking into it right now. There are still some questions, but if you want to have more context, I think it's better for you to take a look at episode 3 and see what it is there. As far as sticking to the best practices, I'll leave it up to either Küster or a storyteller to talk about this, but I have a feeling that the answer is yes. I mean, I don't see any reason why going into 3.0 it changes anything with regard to how we process data on the client and on the server. I don't think changing from fibers to async really affects that significantly in any way. And so the best practices still hold. But Jan, would you offer some additional context?
No, 100% agree.
Yeah, I generally agree as well. I think only that this question was made in regards with Mongo change streams, that they may be different in terms of processing than using the oplog. And but I'm not too deep into that topic in order to can make any statement. Basically, I would also support that using pub/sub sparingly, especially when the queries are very vague and you can basically send anything to the client immediately.
Yeah, I agree. All right. And then in the comments last week, we have a user GBS Code who asked the question, what exactly is the Meteor 3.0 deep dive? Is that also going to be a live stream? I've responded already in the comments section there, but let me just say this, which is the deep dive podcast that we're going to do will likely not be entirely live cast. There might be some elements of it that will be, but these are actually edited stories that we're putting together. And it's not a MongoDB, it's not a Meteor 3.0 deep dive. It's the road to Meteor 3.0. So we're talking about the process of, the how, the why, and so on behind what's going on to get from the 2 series to 3. I think Storyteller had some feedback on that a while back. Maybe he wants to add a little bit here.
Not really at this stage. We are still looking exactly how to do it. The biggest right now is problem is to sync up our schedules. So that is still something that we have to really do. And once we do that, and once we get started on that, I'm thinking what we'll be doing, or as we said, first we'll have most likely a streamed episode, which will be the big overview, and then we'll go into more in-depth for people who are interested in the specific topics, and we shall see how we are going to manage that. But those, as you mentioned, will probably pre-record or get a bit more work into it, because that will be more technically heavy. So that's not something that we might be able to do off the top of, just coming and talking about stuff.
Right. So we do have a little bit of an update later on in the program. I'll cover a couple of bits about what are going to be the next steps and when you might expect to see some progress. But let's get to the news right now that we're done with the comments and the submission box. All right. So I'm going to turn this over to Jan Küster. Jan?
Yes. First thing, as you might already seen, there is a bi-weekly update from the Meteor team, from the Nielsen. Basically, he's again pointing to the latest alpha version, which is still alpha 0.15. Still, I say still because we already covered last week that there is an alpha version 15 out there. Nevertheless, it's also always linked in detail, like what they were doing in the that they reviewed the major package version update. We covered that as well in the last episode. But there's also a follow up on what they're currently doing, and I basically pointed them to that. I hope it was me pointing them to that, because once I posted that I did a trial of doing the tutorials, the official Meteor tutorials, but with the latest alpha version. I was just curious because I wanted to see, can I recreate the tutorial but with the latest version? And then I found some issues, and I pointed to them, and basically that's what they're doing now. They recreate the tutorials, see what issues come up, because that's what user will face definitely when they will install Meteor with the 3.0, and so that's what they're currently fixing. Yeah, and it's because these bugs should not be in a beta, definitely. So that's also encouragement from me to everyone here. Try the alpha versions with anything you can imagine, with the tutorials, with any of your projects. Try to migrate or something, and then give feedback. The more feedback we give in advance, the better the 3.0 release will be.
Okay, I apologize, guys. We have a little bit of latency on the computer that I'm working with right now. Jan, do you have control over the doc as we go through, to be able to put it up or not?
I have the document and everything. I don't have the control when it comes to screen sharing and stuff like that.
Okay, I'm going to try to put it on the stage.
Yep, that's fine enough. I have all that already here.
Oh, you can put it on the stage and take it off the stage?
I can take it off, but I cannot put it on.
Okay, all right. So I have a little trouble with this computer I'm working with. There's a little bit of latency, and so sometimes I'm able to get it up and up there, and then not. But let's get on to the next story, which is on. We had a member of the community Slack, and here's the thing that I really want to get to on this is quite often what we will see people asking for help or trying to resolve issues on Slack, and the thread discussions tend to be really good. The trouble that we have with that is that if you don't have a commercial license for Slack, then after 3 months, the content that is there disappears and you don't have access for it. You are not able to search for it. So one of the things that had been done was I noticed that there was this discussion on a topic related to a question about how to allocate system memory in Meteor. Long story short, you really don't. I mean, it's done through Node, but there was a discussion there. We moved it over to the forums, and in the forums, there was further discussion, elaboration on it, and then finally there was a resolution. Now, what we have once we've done this is we have a searchable repository for a particular kind of issue that is available on the forums. The forums have been used, I think, since 2014, I think it was, right? Since it got started. So there is a rich and long repository of information with regard to things that happen with Meteor there. And this, more than anything else, is really an example of one of the things we can do as a community to make sure that information doesn't get lost and we're not repeating fixes or addressing old issues again and again and again because they weren't properly documented. So this is just an example of an item that somebody brought up in the forums, and that was taken over to brought up in the community Slack and was moved over to the forums and has been resolved here. So any of you could do the same thing. Go over if you see something being discussed in the Slack. Open a it's better if the author or the person originating the question opens the issue themselves. But if not, you could do it and then cross-link back and post the URL to the forums into the thread, which is what I did. And then hopefully what will happen is folks will move over and continue the conversation there. So that is that. And with that,
one small addition.
Go ahead.
One small addition. Sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
Also, contrary to Stack Overflow, there is also a bigger, sensitivity and perception when somebody is, for example, commenting on a very outdated or very old issue that may have already been totally different due to Meteor's evolving stages over the last years. So, which is why it should also be favored first to search the forums before Stack Overflow, in my opinion.
Interesting. Okay. Very cool. I think there should be a longer discussion about, sort of rationalizing all of these different locations for information and bug issues and so on. But I think that's for a longer discussion at some future date. In the meantime, I want to get back to the news here again and bring up this discussion with regard to Awesome Meteor. And I think Storyteller will tell us a little bit about what Awesome Meteor is and why it's being brought back and what you can expect from it.
So years ago, we had a awesome Meteor document, but we kind of forgot about it and it got lost and outdated. So we decided to kind of start a new one, and specifically under the Meteor Community Packages, as you can see here. And Awesome Meteor is, as you can see, generated from Awesome List template. It follows the Awesome List template, which means that pretty much all the awesome stuff that are around Meteor or things that people should know about is included on this list. So you have some list here of amazing packages to consider, and guides, courses, services, companies, and who to kind of follow on social media and so on. We are just getting started, and especially with Hacktoberfest, we would highly encourage everybody to contribute to this list. I think those are pretty easy pull requests to gain, and it really helps to kind of sort out all the different things in the Meteor community. And me, Jan, and Alim, we don't have eyes everywhere. We cannot see everything. So if you kind of can fill out our blind spots in this and provide, information about areas of Meteor that we have not even considered, it's very highly appreciated.
Excellent. Go ahead. I think Küster also wanted to add something in here.
I just wanted to say it's also important for us to get some community input on which areas to focus more. For example, I'm rather heavy on the client side. My work is very heavy on the client side and also on Blaze. So these are my topics. I'm rather interested, so I have much more knowledge about what packages are out there in that area, and not so much, for example, about scaling the database or something like this. So if you think there is a topic underrepresented, feel free to open an issue and ask us, what do you think about that area? Maybe there are some packages, and we can also do some search and throw them together in the issues, discuss that, and then make your pull requests definitely a success.
Sounds good to me. I think, one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that quite often when people are new to the community, they ask who is using Meteor. So I think it's really important that if your company is using Meteor, you have projects that are using Meteor, that we try to publicize those as much as possible too, because there is this impression sometimes, and I think it's an incorrect one, that Meteor was used several years ago but isn't used very much now, and that's not entirely true at all. And we need to, I think when people come and they want to have some social proof that this is a platform that is still valuable and useful and people are building things with it, I think it's great to see examples of companies using it there too. So yeah, this is a great project. I think it's really important, and contribute to it. All right. Okay, next up, I have some news that I'd like to share about the Meteor NYC meetup. This is probably the longest running continuous meetup on meetup.com for a while now. I think it started about 2012. I've been running it since about either co-hosting it or hosting it alone since about 2014. So it's it's almost 10 years at this point. Yeah, it's a long time. So there's some changes that are happening there. I wanted to mention that and again, for a very long time, it was the second largest in terms of membership, about 3,000 people altogether. We have about 2,900 people right now. As far as organized meetups, I think it's still about the largest. But starting next year, right now, if you go to the meetup site, you'll notice that it is Meteor NYC by High Impact Tech. High Impact Tech is a new startup that I started, and starting next year, it will just be the High Impact Tech meetup. Now, what does that mean for Meteor in terms of having a home in New York City? It's still going to be there. Meteor will play a role among other techs that I will be discussing and sharing at that meetup, but it will not be the home of the exclusive home of the Meteor meetup anymore. So I just want to share that with you guys. It's some news. We are still and have been still having the lunch and learns and the hack nights online. I would like to get back at some point to live events, but for now, both High Impact Tech and Meteor NYC will be online for the foreseeable future until we get a local sponsor. Okay. All right. And with that, I want to move on to talk about this, mysterious woman, Helene. Jan Küster.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us about this mystery lady?
Yeah, first of all, let me talk about who was posting this or who is inventing this. That's Leonardo Venturini, and some of you might know him very well because he's also the developer of the awesome Chrome plugin for Meteor, the Meteor DevTools Evolve, and so it's not somebody we haven't seen anywhere before, and he was working on this real-time web app. It's some kind of WebSocket-based and event-based architecture, aiming to be very flexible in the way the dependencies are managed, or what you depend on. And what I think is really interesting here is, at least from my point of view, this is something that can be seen as, and I wouldn't say an alternative to Meteor, but definitely in the same area of what Meteor does, but from a different point of view. And it's also much more on a, I would say, more abstract, less abstraction than in Meteor, but at the same time, there are good abstractions in there. And what I really like here is to see this becoming some real mature project, and at the same time also something that Meteor itself can always take a look at of what we want to do for our next bigger releases once the 3.0 is out, because there are some real selling points here. So not locking into a certain stack from the beginning. I mean, that is on the one hand, this is a big plus on Meteor, that you have a fixed stack that is just working. That's awesome, but it also has been demanded many times to be much more much more compatible with the overall JS ecosystem. And Helene is, in contrast to that, built from the beginning to be much more compatible to the whole JS ecosystem. What I also think is very interesting is the much more raw usage of WebSockets. So when you see this event-driven style, then it's basically these kind of events are basically WebSocket messaging, or at least that's what I've seen. Leonardo, please don't throw anything at me if that was completely wrong. But it's abstracted enough to make this work with WebSockets easier, but it's still more low level, so you have lots of control. And I think that's an interesting approach. I also read a little bit through the comments on that, and there were some good suggestions for improvement. I think currently it's still heavily coupled to React on the client and could be even more decoupled on that. But all in one, I think this is an interesting project, and we as community should really take a look on what they will do right and will do good in order to get an inspiration of what we want or don't want in Meteor once 3.0 is out.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much for that. And just want to move on to the next item, which is a article. Well, not so much an article, but a forum post, which I thought was pretty interesting. My journey towards Meteor 3.0. Küster, you wanna give us some background on that?
Yeah, we covered this a little bit already in before, and this is also a little bit cross-related to the deep dives we were talking about. I mean, this is some kind of a deep dive, and it's been in the forums already for quite some time. The user who is posting this described basically like what they faced using the migration and the problems they run into. And one important thing here is if you scroll down to the end, then Alim basically pinged again, like what's the latest state. And what they mentioned is that some packages still have issues. And this is where we would like to point out this will be the place where many issues may arise when you do an update with your Meteor application or a migration from an existing app, because the Meteor core team will not be able to cover everything. They will not be able to cover every package out there in the ecosystem. And it's basically us, the community, who have the responsibility to get our packages basically running and make them compatible with Meteor 3.0. I can also say that this is partially done for the roles package. Jan, I don't know if there is anything left for the roles package to be fully 3.0 compatible.
We still have to write some tests, but other than that, we should be fine to really get heavy into figure out if there's actually anything left. But I think we have everything covered in that. So we'll be releasing that soon.
So if you take that into account, then look, if this user wouldn't have done this and wouldn't have reported this on our community packages repository of the Meteor roles, then this wouldn't have been fixed maybe until yet, unless Jan and me or somebody else would have found this out doing our own migrations, which again is very important for everyone. Try out some migrations. Feel free to open issues in the repository. Let us know if you find repositories that seems to be popular or used or have some kind of usage, but nobody is maintaining them. They're maybe not under Meteor community packages, but causing trouble with the migration, because you may not be the only person that will face this. And also, if you have some in-depth journey to report, this is exactly what we should do. Post in the forums what you have done, what you faced, what the problems are. People are happy to see that they're not alone with these issues, and it will all contribute to a much better 3.0.
Yeah. So this was user Brat Elephant I think is how you pronounce that. So Brad Elephant, thank you so much for doing this. I think it's a valuable resource when we all share our experiences, and he was very articulate in documenting it. And the nice thing about this is these are things that you could turn into articles if you choose to do so. So you know, by going through this journey, he can wrap that up, put it into something publishable, and we can have far more content for the Meteor community that is useful to them also. So again, thank you on that. And with that, I want to move over onto a discussion on WebAssembly in Meteor that Storyteller has brought up to our attention this week.
Yes, Radoslav is back with another article about building your own build plugins. This time, I think it will be much more interesting for many people than on the CSS modules last month. This one is on WebAssembly in Meteor and how to create your own build plugin into the Meteor build plugins or build system, so that you can easily add your own WebAssembly files and all that stuff. So if WebAssembly is something that interests you, or that's something that you want to use or are using, definitely check out this article. It will kind of walk you how to build your own build plugin. He is not releasing this as a package or like as a build plugin onto Atmosphere, because this is kind of like the basic, and he doesn't want to take care of it. And if he was to release it, he would want to have it more in depth, more detailed. But this is a good start, if this is something that you want to do, so that you can adjust it to your specific needs.
All right, folks. Thank you. And I just want to remind you guys that, if you're finding any value in this program, please hit the like button and, consider sharing the link to the episode. Talk to us in the chat if you're there right now. And we're happy to have a bi-directional conversation with you with regard to that. And then, of course, please subscribe to the channel. We're getting closer to 100 users. Once we get there, once we get to 100 subscribers, we're able to change the URL into something other than the hash that we're given, so that we have an easy way to communicate, or it's an easier way for you to find us in the future, and for others to find us also. By liking the episode, by sharing it, that helps promote this episode and others of the series further in the YouTube search feature. And that means that MeteorJS will get more and more visibility as a project within the YouTube community. So we are trying very hard with this to reach out and connect to more people, people already in the community, in the ecosystem, that want to know what's going on with MeteorJS. But also we're trying to bring fresh blood in, new people that have not experienced Meteor or may have heard about it in the past and have no idea that we're still around and are doing some really great work. So with that, I just want to get to the end of our news, which is talking about Hacktoberfest. So I'm going to bring this back to the two Jans, and let's figure out who among them. There's like a competition now between Jan and Jan to figure out who's going to speak first. So
yeah, I'll go because I have the controls on the screen. So
that's how it works.
Yes, I'll have. So first things first, you can already register for Hacktoberfest. Sign up if you have registered in the past year. It's usually very quick. And then you can click here on the Start Hacking, Initiate. In this case, it's just going to quickly log me in. As you can see, it's for both GitHub and GitLab. And once that is done, it will show you this. It will send you some badges. And it will show you your progress, 0 out of 4 PRs submitted. And part of that is that it has not begun yet. On Sunday is the 1st of October, and that is when the pull request will start, count towards Hacktoberfest. So right now is the time to get ready with this thing, and then Sunday you can start hacking and submitting pull requests. Right.
Küster, your microphone is off.
Sorry. There's also, please don't forget that Meteor Community Packages is prepared for your pull requests, so don't hesitate. You can also open up issues. There's also the package listing for Hacktoberfest on DevTO linked in the in our Meteor forums, and we would love to see any contributions there. Not only because it helps us for the package maintenance and for the package quality, but also to get simply people involved and also get people comfortable with contributing. It's an active part of the community to contribute, and it helps everyone, including yourself, to become a better developer. So don't hesitate. We are taking care of the overall process.
Yes.
So you're making it easy.
Yes, we are getting ready with all our repositories and everything, and there's a lot of repositories. It's was like 39 or 40, something around 40 repositories that we have. So there's a lot of space for improvement, especially in the lesser known. So this is also your opportunity to make your mark in the Meteor ecosystem, to find, say, a bit lesser known package or package that's not as famous as the roles or collection 2 package, but still very often used. And for example, some people like Nacho Coroner couldn't wait, and they already jumped, and he pretty much did a complete review of the Meteor browser tests. So many thanks for getting that done, fixing all the issues, and contributions like that are absolutely amazing, and that's what we are looking for. But even if you cannot go into depth into more technical packages, there's still a lot of other little issues. And in general, what I say in the listing for article, pretty much every other package needs some basic management, adding community standards, moving tests to GitHub Actions, adding TypeScript types, and little things like these, which usually don't take that much time for individual developer, but really help in general the ecosystem as well.
Yeah.
So
if you're looking to if you've never done any kind of open source contribution before, these small tasks can be incredibly helpful to the project, and it could be a way to get started in it. And it also helps you bolster your own portfolio. So you could show that you've made contributions by doing something useful. You don't have to invent a whole new algorithm in order to make a contribution. As Jan is suggesting, there are many other ways to do so. All right. And with that, we are done with the news. So let me just bring us back for a moment to our talk on last week's deep dive. Last week, we mentioned that we are going to be starting our first deep dive called The Road to 3.0. And we've gone over a little bit what that structure might look like. And I know it sounds very nebulous so far, and it's because it is. We are currently looking for guests and contributors on this. One of the things we're going to do is this week coming up is we're gonna start an outline of what those episodes might look like in a discussion forum on the Meteor forums. And you can go in and you can add your 2 cents. At the end of the day, it's an editorial decision. Whatever the structure is that we decide we'll go with, but we do want feedback, and that feedback will shape what that structure looks like. So it's not as if I'm saying that don't tell us your ideas. We want to hear the ideas, but at the end of the day, excuse me, if we don't use your idea, it doesn't mean that it's a bad idea. It just means that that's not the shape of the story that we thought would work for us. So I'm saying that as a caveat now, but the truth of the matter is, we're looking for this to be a really community-driven episode that allows us to explain why we need to go to 3.0, how we got there, and what needs to happen in order to get there. So, yeah, look for it, contribute to it, give us your thoughts and opinions, and that'll help us put a good episode or a series of episodes together for the deep dive. And finally, we're getting into the reminder segment now of the program. I would like to again say that if you're finding value in this program, please hit the like button and share the link with others. If you were not able to participate this week with us, you can always put something into the comments down below after the episode has been published. We read those comments, we review them, we act on them, and then we talk about them the following week. And of course, if you are not able to participate that way, but you have some thoughts and maybe you have some ideas about what we should include in future episodes, then use the submission form that we publish. And all of that information is in the description in the YouTube episode. If you go to that description box, you'll find a number of different links to different resources, including the submission form. Okay. You can support the open source community by directly sponsoring developers. We have in our show notes also links to both Storyteller and Jan Küster's GitHub sponsorship pages. So, if you are so inclined and would like to demonstrate your appreciation for the work that they do, not just in this podcast, but in the open source contributions that they make, then by all means, I would encourage you to do so. And finally, I want to say thank you again for joining us. We have last week crossed, I think, the 92 person or the 92 viewership in a single week, which was great. We've had something similar in the past before. We hope that all the segments that we do here are valuable to you. And if they're not, we would love to get feedback on that as to how we can make it more valuable. All right. And with that, unless you guys have something to add, I will say thank you so much and have a great weekend.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.